you are just doing it just to do it, essentially. So people they, for example, someone who says they want to lose weight. Now, the reason why the why is important is because if they're just losing weight because of somebody else, or they don't know why they use, people say it's healthy, but that, it being healthy is not a good enough why for that person. You know, when some people who, let's say they may be overweight, and then they get to a point where it's like, oh, the doctor says like you've had one heart attack, you finna have a stroke and stuff like that. Then they're like, okay, that's a good enough why, I might die. Or for some people, like let me continue with the weight one, whereby they'll say your weight is probably what's preventing you from becoming pregnant. So then that why is good enough. So whenever you're doing stuff, and you're setting goals, you need to understand why you're doing this. Because if you don't know why, when the days that become tough, you will just you'll be like, what's the point? You'll be like, why am I even doing this? And if you don't have your why ready at hand, then you'll probably flop, essentially. So your why is one of those things where it will help sustain your motivation for you to achieve the goals that you're trying to do. So like we said, obviously with goals, there's an ultimate goal or desire that you want to achieve, whether that's, no matter how big or small. You break that down into a, little goals that are things that you need to do or steps you need to do to achieve that. So I want to lose weight. My goal is to go to the gym once a week. My goal is to start, maybe do cardio, 1K. My goal is to carry, 10 kg, 20 kg, whatever it may be. The milestones will be the results of that. Okay, cool. I've lost 5 kg. I've lost 1 kg. I've lost 10 kg. And then when it comes to the why, that comes down to your motivation about you actually achieving those goals. Now, the next, when it comes into goals, like obviously everyone has probably heard about SMART goals. And obviously the SMART goals are kind of self-explanatory. It has to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And so the reason for that is that obviously specific. So obviously sometimes people will say, okay, like for example, a good one that I do with people is that somebody will tell me, okay, they don't want to be rich, they want to be comfortable. And so that's a common one I always hear people say, I don't want to be rich, I just want to be comfortable. Okay, I'd be like, that's your goal, you just want to be comfortable. Okay, what does comfortable look like? What is comfortable? Because if you can have 100K, you can be comfortable at 20K, you be comfortable at 100K. It just depends. So you need to be specific with what your goal is. The second thing obviously is measurable, because when if you have a goal and you're not really measuring it, then you don't know if you're making any progress. So we all know the saying of, and nothing measured, nothing managed. So again, I find that for example, if I go back to finances to some extent, is that some people feel that they are terrible with money. They're completely terrible with money. They have no acumen for money or how to handle it. And for most times when people think that they're bad at something, they're not really as bad as they think they are. It's just they never took the time to actually measure what they're doing, or actually see that they've been making progress. Next one is attainable, like the goal you're trying to achieve, it can you even achieve it? Is it even attainable? Like, and you know again, it being attainable and then it being realistic, or essentially, for some people say realistic, some people will say relevant. Essentially, is it relevant to what you're doing? Like, is it relevant to um this goal itself? Is it relevant to your ultimate goal? Is it realistic? Can you actually achieve it? And again, time bound. So can you achieve it in a reasonable time? But not only that, a reasonable time, but it has to have a deadline. If there's no deadline, then not necessarily the deadline, but there has to be um times in which this can be achieved. And when you ask yourself the question, so for example, somebody will tell me today, I've had this in real life, somebody will tell me like, oh, I want to buy a house by the end of next year. Okay, cool. How much have you saved? I've done 1K, so you want to buy by the end of next year? Yeah, but I do know how much it is. Uh, No, but whatever it is, so they don't know the specific amount. They've not measured. They don't even know how much they're saving. Is it attainable? I mean, to be the answer is just no. It wasn't attainable. Was it realistic? No. Was it relevant? No. And so, what the goal of what they were trying to achieve within the time they gave themselves was not there. And so, when it comes down to it, you should understand that it's okay if after you have this goal and you break it down for you to push the time frame of what your goal is. Like, some people get anxiety and they kind of say, oh no, I said I have to do it by then. Again, you need to be able to chill and understand what is actually achievable, attainable at the time you have. Now, everybody knows about SMART goals, but then there's a way to make it smarter, which is another add the ER, which is to evaluate and reward. So your goals are only as good as you use them and as you reflect on them. Similar to your milestones, similar to all those things, it's good to evaluate your goals and also check whether your goals are actually working for you, where these goals actually make sense, and whether you're going and making steps to achieve it. And then the last one, which a lot of us forget, is to reward ourselves after achieving our goals or achieving our milestones. So that is a case of which, if there's if you, for example, for me, I'll do all this budgeting, but maybe once a month, I'll give myself like a little 10, 20 pounds, a little 5Ks self-date kind of thing going on, get that milkshake, and you can reward yourself when you achieve these goals, because obviously for example, when it comes to like gym, for example, people really go very hard. They'll go on vegan diet, they'll go on keto diet 3 months straight, and they've hit some milestones, but they never gave themselves any kind of sense of reward. So after a while, they will lose motivation and feel like they've been punishing themselves. It's almost like I've been stressed out all this time. Now I need to reward myself, and then they go ham, they go mad, they go crazy. They really revert back from where they were to where they were prior to actually doing that, because it's that's how people because they have not rewarded themselves along the way, they go from one extreme to another, and they keep jumping from extreme to another. And then, now it's winter body, now it's summer body, now it's winter body, now it's summer body. It's just a cycle. So it's hard to keep it consistent if you're not rewarding yourself and somewhat self-validating yourself for the work that you're doing, because a lot of times we don't pat ourselves on the back for the goals that we're trying to achieve, especially when you're trying to achieve those goals. Now, so that's SMART goals. So again, you need to make it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So there's no problem of setting a deadline, and it's scary sometimes to set a deadline. And to take a step further for these things is for you to write them down. So if you're gonna have a SMART goal, write them down. There's and write's not type. You can write it then type it, one of the two. But I like writing just because it registers into your brain cognitively more if you actually write it down, because your brain, almost like muscle memory, kind of like is as you're writing, kind of remembers with you, as opposed to typing when it's kind of generic. It's just tapping. It doesn't really register that. And again, evaluate the goals. Don't just make it smart, but make it smarter. So whatever the goal is, it doesn't matter what the goal is, there's a way to break it down for you to get yourself going. Because especially this is also good in telling us to chill a little bit. It's like, for example, I'm in my new job at work, and then it's like I've got this huge system that I'm supposed to be managing and working on. And then, in the beginning, so much energy, I'm like, I want to do all of this. How do I do this? How do I do this? And then at some point, me and my manager, we had to be like, okay, let's slow down. How can we do this so that you don't end up burning out? How do you do this so that you end up retaining the information? You don't just go on blind zeal and small motivation to come and, flop yourself out. So that's smarter. So that's a smarter framework of goals. Now there's a second type of goal, which you still use the smarter aspect in it, but it's one where, especially if you want to do something you've never done before, it's just called a stretch goal, basically, a goal that will stretch you. Because ultimately, when it comes to a lot of things that we want to do in our life, like not a lot of growth happens within your comfort zone. And so, or majority of the growth that you ever have is going to be outside of your comfort zone. And if you don't push yourself outside your comfort zone, then life will come and do you backhand and give you struggle, and then you have to get out of your comfort zone some way. So sometimes we need to set stretch goals where it's like it seems so unattainable, but it's big enough to also even give us like more motivation to try and achieve it. So it's almost that idea of that, you know, somebody will say, what's that thing? People say shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, at least you hit the sky or something like that. So there's goals in that sense where they're very lofty, but you know, and it's different from the SMART goals, because you know, especially with stretch goals, they're not necessarily you know, they're not necessarily at your current stage fully realistic to you, maybe not fully attainable to you, but then it's the question of how much work you're going to put into actually overcome maybe your weaknesses or whatever to come up to that. But then when it comes to stretch goals, there's a different way of going about it, which you incorporate SMART, but then you also have to incorporate basically asking for help in terms of achieving your goals. And your stretch also relies heavily more on vision than it is on goal, because it's more of how you want to see the world, or how you want to see your environment, or how you want to see where you're at. Now, in what might stretch you might be something that is attainable for somebody else, but it's a stretch for you. So you need to incorporate that into all of that. Now, one that well, I kind of came up with this, but it's a way to illustrate when people are actually thinking about their goals, and is understanding what type of goal it actually is. So, you know, there's loads of different kinds of ones that I kind of envisioned when I was talking about goals, but then whether it's linear, horizontal, exponential, quadratic, and there's other ones depending on what you're doing, but it's very good to understand what type of goal you actually have, so that you can understand how you actually plan it out. So on the left, you have a quadratic graph, so it's just like a downward loop. You know, on the right, exponential, a linear graph, and a horizontal. Now, to break down the differences in these kind of ones, it's like, for example, if you're in the gym, it would be, if you're trying to lose weight, or if you're trying to get faster, it would likely be an exponential to some extent. Depending on what you're doing, it'll probably be exponential. So, you know, we all know, even in terms of like energy, we all know the hardest part to do is to start. So in the beginning, even to go jogging, it's like, oh my days, I can't jog. And then before you know, you start, you know, you go from 2K to 4K to 5K. It's not necessarily linear. Even losing weight in the beginning, you don't, you know, people who are losing weight in the first couple of weeks, months, you don't really see much difference. Like it's only going like a 1 kg, 0.5 kg, a couple of pounds here or there. And then before you know it, it's in the last stretch that you start seeing the biggest change. And so that is the exponential type of goal, whereby everything ramps up more to the end, but you still have to go through this process. So even if you look at businesses, for example, startups, most startups are like this. In the beginning, they're not getting no traction. But when they start, you know, proof of concept, and then they start getting their first deal, then before you know it, boom, that's how they go. You see Teslas, you see a lot of startups, that's how they go. Now, this one, on the left, a quadratic one, it would be maybe like if, for example, if you were a footballer and your goal was to get match ready. Now, if you're going to go for match ready, what would probably happen is that in the beginning, you start ramping up the intensity. You start from rest, get up, you know, increase it 10 kg, 50 kg, 100 kg in the gym, whatever, be doing the sprints. And then it reaches maybe a day. Let's say you have 5 days before your match. On the third day would be the biggest one, which would be your peak, and this is what would be, and then you would start ramping down so that you don't burn yourself out and conserve your energy for match day. So that's how they would do it on that. Now, the one on the bottom left here, horizontal, is the one where it's equal measure at all the time. Is equal measure. So for example, people do this typically when they're studying for the exams. It's like, okay, cool, I've got 4 weeks left to exams. I've got a big exam there. If I break down this course, I've got like 20 chapters of this course, and it will take me 3 hours to do each of them. I do maybe 1 hour a day, or 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. So typically this is how people actually do their when they're trying to revise, this is how they break up their goals. Okay, 3 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 3 hours a day. Okay, I've done this 3 hours a day. Even when people are trying to do their work for uni and stuff like that, they do it as well that way. Now, this one, obviously linear, self-explanatory. As you just go on, as you go on, you kind of increase in proportion as you're going on, and it almost goes on a straight line. And so all depending on how your goal is will come down into how you actually effectively plan it. So for some people, they're like, okay, I'm gonna do, even in terms of like doing weights or stuff like that, or doing press ups, it's like, you go from doing 2 a day, 2 a day, 2 a day to like, okay, 3 a day. But then after you realize that if you can do 3 a day for like a month, then you can very easily go to like 7 a day, 10 a day, as opposed to, just adding one every day. It doesn't really work that way. So depending on your goal will depend on how you actually effectively plan it. So understanding your goal, or what type of goal you actually have, is very important for you to succeed in doing that. Now, the next thing when it comes to your goal is doing something called a SWOT analysis. So a SWOT analysis, I didn't put this up here, but to be, is basically it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, I typically tell people to kind of have it either do it twice or do it in a combined fashion. So typically what people would do is that they would actually what's it called? They would actually just get a piece of paper. I didn't draw it here. Get a piece of paper, divide it into 4. They'll have strengths here, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, what you need to understand is in this, you can do it in that people will do this multiple times across the life cycle of them getting their goals. But essentially, the two things you need to be looking at is this SWOT analysis is one for yourself. So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What is the opportunities that you have? And what are your threats? Now, why I said it is 2 is because you want to do one for the actual plan, the goal itself, like, okay, and kind of combine it. So you can do, some people do it separately, some people do it on the same sheet of paper, because when it comes to opportunities, it's more within the project or whatever the goal is, as opposed to within yourself. Except if you look at the opportunities for you to either grow, or the opportunities for you to get out of a comfort zone, or opportunities for you to learn something, etc., etc. But understanding your strengths. So what are your strengths? Like, what are your strengths? And your strengths don't have to necessarily be in line with what the goal is, but you need to understand what your strengths are. So the first thing is your strengths. Your second thing is your weaknesses. Like, where you not like, okay, for me, like, I'll know my strengths is like, okay, maybe public speaking and stuff like that. Working with difficult people, communicating, like that, maybe my strength. Weaknesses, I can sell in person, but maybe marketing online marketing is not my strength. So there's a weakness there. What is opportunities within your goal, or whatever thing you're trying to achieve? Is there opportunities that you can exploit outside? Is there opportunities that you can have from doing this? And then what are your threats? Now, the strengths and the threats part is more, again, very, what's the threats within this, but especially self-evaluation. Okay, cool. I want to go gym a lot, but my threat of that is, like I've said, I want to go gym every 6 a.m., but the threat to it is that I go to bed late a lot. So I'm likely not to go achieve that. My threat is that I like to procrastinate, so I'm probably not going to hit the time bound. My threat is, I have FOMO. So if I'm supposed to get this done by tomorrow, but my boy or my friend or whatever, my girl tells me I need to come out, then I'll be out in 2 minutes. So what are the threats within myself that I can identify that will actually hold me back from achieving my goal? And what's the threats within this? Like, is it, for example, let me say you're trying to be a rapper or singer. A threat to it could be you have what's it called? An engineer or producer who doesn't know what they're doing, and XYZ. So next thing you'd want to do is a SWOT analysis on yourself and your plan. The next part is essentially, what are your resources? Now, a lot of people sometimes tell me the reason why they haven't started, or they haven't gotten the idea off the ground, or X, Y, Z, is like, is because they don't have the resources. Hugo, there's no resources. I don't have the resources to get what I want to get done. Which, you know, it's not really true. It's not really true. It's not that you don't have the resources. It's not that you don't have the resources that you think you should have, essentially. But then when it comes to this, it's most times it's not that you don't have the resources, you're just not resourceful enough. It's about being resourceful to what you have. So, you know, regardless of what you do want or do, obviously, again, this may take you out of your comfort zone. For example, some people, they don't like asking for help. Some people are too prideful. Some people, you know, they don't know how to communicate. They don't know what to look for, where to look for stuff. But what resources that you do actually have available, because everybody has some kind of resources available. So for example, you know, you want to become you know, want to do music and rap, but you don't have money for what's called to pay producers and pay studio time. A lot of youth clubs actually have that facility for free. You know, you're trying to find jobs, you can't really know, you're trying to do your CV or something like that. If you go to a library, depending on where you live, there's always a library, at least one library in every borough. You know, again, with all these things, okay, you don't have money to start, you know, there's free websites, there's free platforms. Like, what have you done the research to find the resources? Okay, you don't really have money. Have you thought about, you know, asking your mom, asking your dad? Don't just ask them in a case of, you know, give me money. Go to them with a business plan, kind of like, this is what I want to do. Because ultimately, again, if you go to the beginning, if you don't know why you're doing it, then ultimately you can't communicate to anybody what you're trying to do if you've not communicated to yourself. So when it comes to finding resources, regardless of what your plan is or what you're trying to achieve, there's a lot of stuff that are actually out there that you can do. And it's all about using what you have before you get to the place where you can get the things where you don't have, you know. Like, that's really what it is. So it's like, if you want to start something, 9 times out of 10, you know, don't waste time to start, because when you think you're quote unquote ready, in terms of you have all the resources, you probably wasted a lot of time. Like, you really just wasted a lot of time, and you're actually, you know, behind where you should have been by now. And then what other resources you can also identify, that will come to you later. That may not be apparent to you now. So for example, if you know, okay, what resources do I have now? It's okay, I've got youth club, I've got friends, I got family, I got the internet, whatever. When I finish GCSE, if I make it to this particular sixth form, then I'll have more resources available, you know, because this one's a music school or whatever, they may give me a camera, whatever. So you need to still know what resources you have now, and then as you start moving ahead, more resources will come to you. And so obviously, after you understand what your goal is, what type of goal it is, um, and I've done an analysis of yourself, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and all that kind of stuff. And then also, you know, now you understand what resources you do have available, and, you know, ultimately you be evaluating which of these resources actually can help affect, you know, my plan. Then obviously the next thing now is to actually create the plan. You know, so it's like, I guess, like I said, a dream without a plan is just a wish. You know, there's nothing. If you don't have a plan, then you're not going anywhere. So if somebody comes to me and tells me they want to do X, Y, and Z, typically I can kind of grasp whether they're going to actually achieve it based on how they communicate what they're trying to do, and whether they, not necessarily whether they've written down a plan, or whether they're able to communicate to me that they actually have a plan. And the issue isn't about, you know, me giving them a thumbs up or whatever. The issue is whether they've given themselves a thumbs up. So if you've ever met somebody who says, I'm gonna do this, you can kind of tell them like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. It's like, you sure? Like, if you can hit them with 2 questions, they've lost motivation, they don't know what they are. But if you understand why or what you're doing, then when it comes to creating your plan, then you have now got the full picture, and you've actually self-analyzed yourself. And when it comes into the SWOT analysis, that goes for you, but it also goes for anybody you're working with. So if you're doing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you need to know, okay, even if it's your best friend, your brother, your mother, your sister, the person, your boyfriend, your lover, what happens as a threat if you break up with them? What happens if your friendship goes away? What happens if you know, it's also like when you're doing a goal and you have other people attached to your goal, it's almost like they say, one of the reasons why people say don't mix business and families, because never hire somebody you can't fire. So if you know, if I needed a deadline on Saturday, could I shout at this person? that could be a weakness of me about, communicating constructive criticism or holding people to task. So also when you're doing your SWOT analysis, take into mind, and also for some things it might not be helped if if one of your friends is in uni with you or at uni and they're helping you out, and you know that in May is exam season, and then you already know that, during when you're doing that SWOT analysis, that threat, that for May and June, even April for revision, you might not have this person's full attention. So you need to know who else well is, could affect your plan being achieved. So when it comes into you creating your plan, I'll always say that your plan must be adaptable. And that just means that your plan should be ready for life, because life is just one of them ones that is going to be, regardless of what your plan is going to throw a spanner in the works, and you need to be able to adapt really quickly. Now, the reason people whose plans aren't really adaptable or aren't ready to adapt their plans, they are hella stressed. They are very what's it called? They're very stressed, anxiety ridden most times. Most times they're fighting. Go on. Your hands up.
Oh, yeah. So where you said for the plan it has to be adaptable and structured in place.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Like, for example, me, yeah, I'm trying to at some point in the summer do drop shipping, but I've even been advised that if I'm going to do drop shipping, try and get products for like this particular season. So like summer coming up, because honestly, that's when obviously people are looking into summer products or whatnot, sunglasses, shorts, t-shirts, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and whatnot. When I'm speaking with suppliers, yeah, so that's what I've done, like here and there. But the only issue is, like, even when I've done it on the Alibaba website, is that I, in particular, don't have my own online business. So would you say that would probably be an issue?
So yeah, they could obviously drop shipping. Obviously, ultimately, it's one of them ones where it's set up to kind of be hands free. You don't necessarily have your own inventory, and so if for example you're ordering from Alibaba, what do you do if Alibaba's out of stock? What do you do if people aren't necessarily liking that specific one? What do you do if that order doesn't come on time? Do you have other suppliers? And kind of like when it especially with drop shipping, it's like, okay, drop shipping really relies on, like you were saying, like what is kind of hot right now and what do people want right now, because it's all about pushing volume. So especially if you're not going to be doing inventory, is the people you're going to be buying from close by. What do you do if people now get annoyed about the delay in time or whatnot? And so it's about how do you adapt to that situation? How do you kind of adapt, whether that be in terms of customer service, maybe be like, oh yeah, we're experiencing difficulties, or would it be in refunds, or how would you deal with that scenario? Let's say summer comes now. What would you do if people now don't like let's say you put your money into there. Okay, now let's say people don't specifically like this specific sunglasses. What are you going to do? Are you going to remarket it as something else? Are you going to keep on pushing it? Are you going to try and find a new target audience? So how do you change what you've specifically said that, okay, I'm going to definitely get these people, or get this my target audience, or this is my delivery, or this is my supply chain? How do you adapt to that?
Yeah, and I don't know if you've done drop shipping yourself, you got, but from your experience, if someone doesn't have plans to do drop shipping, but they don't have like their own online like business, like shop, like set up on Shopify, then would you say it would be difficult for anyone trying to buy in bulk and then sell it on?
I think if you don't have a platform like Shopify or maybe Etsy or eBay or something like that, it's gonna probably be difficult. Or Amazon, it'll probably be difficult if you're trying to do it independent, unless you are close to a market that needs this specifically, or you have a social media presence enough or community enough to do that. So for example, if you're somebody that knows a lot of African aunties and you sell a lot of Ankara or a lot of African material, then you could probably have a network of aunties that are kind of devoid of all of that. They kind of know you. But if you're trying to do something that you're trying to appeal to a wide audience, then having some of these platforms may be beneficial just because of the quick and ease, especially when it comes to like doing stuff like taking payments and stuff like that, as opposed to giving out your details to people to transfer you, which is okay with your friends. But if you're trying to expand beyond that, you may find some hurdles with that. Unless you're already like, if you're bait, if it's like uni things, if you're like in uni and you're bait, then that could work because everyone knows you. But if you're like just out in these streets kind of thing, then it could be difficult.
Yeah, no worries. I'll take that into consideration. I might have to either set up eBay or Shopify, but do you think eBay is better to set something up in terms of like buying things in bulk and then selling them on eBay than compared to Shopify?
Well, me personally, I've never like gone to Shopify to go to Shopify. So I've only gone to Amazon to go to Amazon or eBay. Those are the only two personally that I've gone, and I've gone to Etsy as well. Obviously, a lot of people who, when they do drop shipping, do direct people to Shopify. And I think Shopify, in terms of their market cap, has gone up. So I think people may be actually using Shopify more now than what was before. But I wouldn't be able to tell you which one would be the best for like bulk selling, because ultimately I think that still comes down to how you are able to market yourself, to be honest, to get people to be, unless it's something that's hot already and people are searching on it, and then you're ranking on Google and all these kind of things, or in social media, it comes down to just driving traffic. So if it's something that a lot of people want, then you buy in bulk, most platforms you'll be on wouldn't really matter. It's almost like if you had like the new Yeezys, like you could make a fake website, someone will find it. So it just comes down to kind of like the demand of it.
All right, no worries.
Cool. So yeah, so obviously when you make your plan, it needs to be adaptable. And just to give like another example, people, this one, a lot of people, for example, that I went to school with, that I know personally, their plan was to get into medicine. And so when they got A-level results, they didn't make it to medicine. Some of them, they didn't change their plan, and so they went into like biomed or something like that, and then finished biomed or something like that. Still applied for medicine. 3 years on, still went and did medicine again, and so they've kind of still chasing. And for some of them, that it's because it's a goal that they made when they were younger or from before, and said, I need to get this, but at no point would it. And then some of them end up getting there 10 years later, but they didn't really understand. They kind of were just doing it because maybe their parents asked them to do or something like that, but their plan wasn't adaptable, because this is what they said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to achieve it. And so we need to be able to be adaptable when like things don't go our way. Let's say I wanted to be a footballer, I could have decided to be continued. I didn't make it in trials, I didn't make it to the team. Obviously, as you go on, at some point you need to change your plan, you need to be adapted. Maybe it might still come to the end, you might still get to the same place in the end, but you may have to take a different route. Then the next thing, obviously, when it comes to your creating a plan, is that it has to have milestones. It has to have milestones for you to be like, okay, cool, I'm actually, when I hit this, I know that I'm making progress. Because when you make a plan, especially if it's the first time you're doing this thing, like I said, if you want to do something, if you want to have something you never had, you need to do things you've never done before. And so if you're doing this, you want to have milestones, because for yourself, it's all about motivation to carry you to the end. So if you don't have milestones for when this is going to, let's say, okay, I've made 5 sales, maybe I've made 10 sales, then it looks like there's progress, because all this work you're putting in now, it's not just that it gives you validation, but it gives you the energy to keep on moving forward. Then the last one of the 3 that I wrote down here was assurance. So within like engineering or facilities management, assurance is just basically, checks and balances to make sure like a project is done well, or to make sure that maintenance is going well, and all those kind of things. So what are the assurances that you're going to put in your plan to make sure that you stay on task, that you stay in there? So for example, like last week I was saying, if you have a budget and you want to do well in finances, it's good for you to have a financial buddy, because that's an assurance for yourself, because now that keeps you accountable. For if you're building like a new building in construction, you would have a supervisor to keep that to to essentially be that person to keep you accountable. Cool. So you'd see another person, you need what's it called? You'd have a supervisor who would essentially be that individual who would keep assurance, and so you need to put those assurances within yourself. So for example, obviously if it's like, okay, I want to stop eating a certain amount of sugar, some people's assurances is by cutting out like no biscuits around the building, no going to the grocery store, they change their route or stuff like that. That's their assurances, because at that moment in time they don't have the self control to not do that. Rules and regulations, all those kind of things. So what do you do for yourself? So for example, for me, I tax myself. So if I flop in a certain aspect, I get taxed. I tax myself, it goes in my savings, but I tax myself if like, I don't do a certain thing, or I haven't saved this amount, or let me say if I spent too much this week out of my budget, then next week gets hit. So I tax myself for as an assurance for me to stay on track of what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to save £200 a month, or £50 a month, or 1 million a month. Okay, cool. That means I have to spend only £50 a week here. Let's say I end up spending 75. That means next week I can only do 25. So you just tax yourself £25 for next week. So what's your assurances? So when you make your plan, you need to understand what type of goal it is, where you're trying to get to, which is the ultimate goal or the desire. That's what you're trying to get to. But then add milestone, and then you need to break down your goal in for it to be achievable. But ultimately, you need to know why you're trying to achieve this big thing. Because if you don't know why you're trying to achieve it, then it's kind of pointless. Because realistically, I always tell people, if you're going to uni, you should know why you're choosing the course you want to choose, regardless of what it is. Because it doesn't matter who you are. Even if you're doing fine art will somehow find its way to stress you. And in those moments when it's stressing you and you want to drop uni and you want to cut, then that's when you need to go back to why you're doing it, and that keeps you going. For example, our parents know why they were working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, because they have to make sure that their kids can eat food. It's not necessarily because they want to, so they know why they're doing what they're doing, and that feeds into their plan, which the ultimate thing is just to raise their kids. And then the goal is just to make this amount of money here or there to make sure that they're comfortable. And so when it comes into when you're creating your plan, it's about understanding what I call as compound goal setting. So understanding how one goal feeds into another and makes the next goal bigger. So, for example, it's about, what's a good example off the top of my head? Essentially how when you're doing creating your plan, it's about, a good way to do it is how do you link your goals together. So for example, let me say I'm trying to become a good footballer. Okay, no, let me say table tennis. I'm playing table tennis. I play table tennis. No, let me use basketball. That was better. So let me say with basketball, my first thing I need to know how to do is, let's say the rules. I learned the rules. That's my goal. Learn the rules. My next thing is to learn how to dribble, to bounce the ball. The next thing I want to know is how to crisscross. Next thing I want to know is how to dribble with both hands. The next thing I want to know is how to jump. And then the compounding effect of each goal being hit makes this next goal even a bit better and easier to achieve. And it makes you all-around package. So for example, let's say you wanted to be a manager, okay, learning communication skills is cool. So you learn communication skills. Now you've learned how to do some timekeeping. Cool. Then you now know how to manage people. Cool. Then you now know how to keep yourself on time. Cool. Then now the goals keep on compounding and compounding. And so there's a way of you creating your plan that it compounds your goals, almost like compound interest, that the end result is almost immaculate. So for example, Robert Greene, the guy who did the book called 48 Laws of Power, I think there was a time in his life where he didn't know what he wanted to do within about the span of 12 years, something years, like 12 years or something like that. He had worked 50 jobs, like 50 odd jobs. He did like fishery to like waitering to, he worked in London, Malaysia, just all these random jobs. And then but from his little random jobs here and just compounding, that's how kind of like it compounded to the point where he was like, I see how people interact and how human beings interact around power and all these things. And then that's how the book around 48 Laws of Power came about. So that's where the compound goal setting comes into, how you feed into what you're doing to help you get to where you're trying to get to. And so if you feed that into your plan, then it helps to make your plan sustainable, along with you hitting your milestones, and you'll see that your milestones will become greater. And then the last thing I'll mention that I didn't put into here is about when you're setting a plan, especially if it's something that you've not attained before, understanding that, for some of, when it comes into especially evaluating your plan, understanding that, especially if you understand why you're doing what you're doing, what the ultimate goal is, how, especially when it comes to resources, how some of them or some of these things, your answer should just be, they will come when they come. So a lot of people wait for resources to come, but most times your resources are coming, waiting for you along the journey to achieve your goal. So it's almost like when you're on the way, it's like, let me say, God, he's got my blessing at Ealing Broadway Station. I need to waka come out of my house, and then once I get past Ealing Broadway Station to get to Central London, that's when that blessing will meet me to help me out. So if you understand how, like, there's nobody's 100% ready or has all the resources before they start the plan, especially in terms of if it's an interpersonal thing or goal we're trying to achieve or business trying to start, you never have all of it. So understanding that that's okay, and that is when you start along the way, as long as you start hitting where you're going, then all you need to know is how to get to the first bus stop. When you get to the first bus, it's like, I can see over the bend. I can see where the next bus stop is, and then you can kind of make your way over there. So that's essentially about goal setting. Obviously, if you, I was gonna ask people if they brought their own some goals they want to achieve, so then I would have done less. Now let's give it a go. But obviously, this is kind of the point where if you have any questions or stuff like that, then yeah, you can drop that in. So I think the other two have now left. So it's just, it's just you and Kay. So do you have any questions?
No, not at all. You broke everything down nicely. I have a few notes here.
Cool.
It's just about applying. That's where my issue always comes into play.
Yeah, that's the reason
I
why.
have this.
That's the reason why I asked people to. That's the reason why I didn't say, I forgot to tell Mel to put it out there, but I was gonna ask for those who were to come through it to bring some goals that they're trying to achieve, so that we can actually kind of create something now for them to
Okay.
kind of run with, because again, it, all of these sessions, like I did with Getchi last week, that I asked all the questions and stuff like that, for me it's very valuable if it's kind of like we practice it now, or actually use a
Of
real
course.
thing
Yeah, because
into it.
yeah. But most of my goals are most on financial goals. I used to be I used to be so good at like my budgeting, putting money aside.
Then what happened?
Then everything just went. It was, yeah, when you go through that one thing and everything just yeah. So that's what happened. I mean, I got a new job, so I would like to like get back into that habit and stuff like that.
So what's your goal now?
As in terms of what? So
In
like I
terms of
have a few.
finances. So you said you said that, okay, you have a few. So
Yeah.
riff through the goals you want to achieve.
Okay. The first financial goal would be to sort. I see. It's not even. They're not even solid goals. You get me? That they're just stuff that I have in my head.
It's okay.
I would.
Say them as
Yeah.
they come.
Okay. So the first one would be to be like I wouldn't say financially stable, but have like enough funds patterned for the next few months, as in to sort of
So an
cover.
emergency fund.
Thank you. Emergency funds.
Okay.
Exactly. And then because I've blown my emergency funds on things I don't need.
Okay.
So
Okay.
get back on track, get into budgeting. I downloaded this app the other day, then I deleted it.
What's it
But
called?
like I just need to my first wait, let me go get it. I have it here. My first major goal is to get back into budgeting. So
Okay.
if you help me with that, that would be amazing.
No problem.
It's called Good Budget Planner.
Okay.
So basically, it prompts you to like enlist what you spend money on, like to the like split up your salary and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Track your debt and your debt progress. Like it sets like a target for you as well.
Okay.
But that was long, so I just deleted the app, which
What
is
was
really
the app
bad.
called?
It's called Good Budget Planner.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What other goals do you have?
What other? Oh yes. So I literally ordered new books, so to read more, if that makes sense. So I was so good the first quarantine that I had books everywhere, but then the last 8 months I've been all over the place. So read more and then sort of implement what I've read into my day-to-day life, I guess.
Are these somewhat psychological self-help books?
Yeah, so like personal development books, basically.
Okay. Cool. Continue.
Yeah. And then I need to be more disciplined. I feel like it needs to start off with the discipline. Because I feel like I keep referring to how I was, but first that was then, this is now. To sort of focus. So before I had my budget, I would read X amount of pages a day. I would sort of pray. I'd do all the things I needed to do. But now it's just work and sleep, or work and Clubhouse, or work and...
Right, so my basically said Clubhouse and chill.
Literally,
Okay.
nothing productive. It's so bad. So like I literally I'll even they came in today, which we thank God. How do I feel the camera? Oh yeah. I got this.
The 10x rule, Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
Good vibes, good life. The Alchemist. Okay.
Yeah. And then I got this as well.
Okay.
I mean, I think I'm on the right track.
Okay. So, I mean, you got the books. Now the problem is to read them.
Read them. Exactly. Thank you. Because I have another pile of books as well that need to be read.
So out of the pile of books, including the new ones, including the new ones you bought, how many have you read?
So I finished Emotional Intelligence. I finished The Power of Now, but that literally has 2 sentences per page. And Rich Dad Poor Dad, I've listened to the whole audio, but I've only read like half of the book. And then I've only read the ebook of The Prince of Babylon. And even the ebook, I think I've only read half of it. So it's literally dabbling.
Okay. And so from the books you've read, how much of that you applied into your life?
0.0%.
Okay. Why is that?
So I've taken the notes. My issue is not actually like, taking in the information. It's actually applying it.
Yeah. But that's my question. Why haven't you applied it?
I think it's lack of discipline.
Okay. So when would you last say you were disciplined?
Let's just look at... I actually need to check my calendar. That's how bad it is. 1 second. 1 second. Because there's a period of time where I actually documented everything I needed to do every day, right down to my meal times and everything.
Okay.
I'm looking. Wait, sorry, I'm still going back.
No problem.
Oh wow, this is bad. Yeah, May 2020, so a year ago.
Okay. And so what happened that made you be less disciplined? What was your fuck it moment?
Oh, so like a lot of things happened all at once. So like I lost a few loved ones, and then my financial situation took like a huge dip. I had a lot of, differences with my family. And then I took the year out of uni, and then everything just went downhill. Just at once, in the space of like a few months. So everything just went phew.
Okay. And so firstly, condolences for the people you lost.
Thank you.
You know, life is a funny one. It doesn't, you know when people say bad things come in threes, they don't come one at a time. They don't come one a month. Just let me handle January problem. February problem. No. They just said, let me give you everything in March. So, Okay, cool. All right, then I'm gonna ask you. All right, so how have you recovered emotionally and mentally from that experience at this point in time?
I think the first step was sort of obviously processing what had happened, because at the start I literally I was like, no, this is not my life. So I feel like the failure to accept certain things was what led to me in this position. So actually processing what had happened, coming to terms with my emotions, that sort of was the stepping stone. And then I had this bad habit of not like opening up about anything. So I literally went through that whole process by myself. I didn't say a word to anyone. Like no one knew until like a few months ago that, oh wow, you've lost 6 people in the space of 3 months. This and this has happened to you. Do you get? So it was like, oh wow. Do you get? So when I started opening up to people, I actually came to terms with my emotions. Stuff started like, falling back into place. And then another important thing was I started being more prayerful, because around the time where I was disciplined, I was ran to God. But when all of this happened, I literally do you know what I mean? He was the last option and the last resort. So it was like, that's one of the reasons. And then, so coming to terms with what had happened and then going to God helped.
So how comfortable are you with sharing your emotions now? And the second question is, how in control of your emotions would you say you are right now?
I would say I'm way more comfortable. I'm still not at the level that I want to be at, but I think I suppose I'd say I'm more emotionally confident now than I was definitely before.
What was holding you back from sharing before?
Just the thought of people not actually caring, if that makes at the end of the day, everyone has their own issues. So why, if I'm just giving you extra headache? That's how I thought it, and that was my mindset. So it was like, I can deal with this on my own. If they're coming to me with their own problems, me, trying to confide in them isn't gonna really. I was that friend that everyone poured stuff into. Do you get?
So if it was your friend saying that to you, what would you have said?
What do you mean in terms of what?
So you're the person that people come to pour to. So if your friend came to you and said, Enke, I don't want to share with you because like I don't want to pour this into you. Everybody has their own thing. What would you say to that person?
Then I would have been like, not even. I would have said the same thing now, and then I'd be like, it's not even like that. I'm always here for you, blah blah blah. But that came out of like you only really truly know yourself. Like they could be saying that to me, but do you know what I mean? Like you don't actually mean what you say. So
yeah. So I guess my next question is how many people would you say you not 100? Well, I don't give anybody 100%, but let's say 90% trust.
Sorry.
How many people would you say you 90% trust?
2 people.
2 people, and those 2 people, are they also the same people that you share your emotions with?
From time to time, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, at least in terms of the emotional and I guess to some extent the mental side of it, I guess you see the value to some extent of sharing your emotions.
Of course, definitely.
Yeah, because like you said, like it's one of those ones where when we're going through stuff, like one thing we forget that if we don't tell nobody, nobody will know. And then it's kind of like, but at the same time, you're also looking at people like, fam, aren't you seeing my face? Like, I feel like it's written right here. Like, slide to DM, like, call me and ask how I am. Don't just say, yo, Blue Story was mad. Like, you know, or Blue Therapy, whatever it's called. But yeah, like a problem shared is always a problem half. Not necessarily a solution will come out of it, but at least your shoulders will be a little bit lower. A little bit lower.
Definitely.
A little bit lower. Okay, cool. So is there any other goals that you want to achieve?
They're mostly financial goals. And then would I say spiritual goals? Like obviously I want my relationship with Christ to be better.
What does that look like?
Right now? It's not rolling.
What does it look like to have a good relationship with God to you?
To me, a good relationship with God is going to Him before going to anyone anyways. And then another thing would be being more like in tune with my faith in terms of certain things I do. So like before doing something, I'll be like, considering, is this right by God? Sorry, my English is so limited tonight. They actually bust my brain at work.
It's not supposed to be our first language anyway,
exactly. But just in terms of putting God before anything, if that makes sense. So I don't think I do that enough. I sort of like rely on my own intellect or my own ability rather than letting go simply and letting God do what He has to do. Does that make sense?
Okay. So why is that?
I have no like solid reason. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's my desperate urge of independency, as in like I've always wanted to do stuff on my own. I've always been doing stuff on my own anyways, but that's not how life should be. You can't do everything by yourself.
So can I ask you this question?
Go on.
Would you say your origin of independence was by choice or by necessity?
I would say a bit of both. Most of my origin of independence was to defend my peace, protect my peace, if that makes sense. So I've lived alone from a very young age. I've been, doing things from, did you get what I mean? Like financially sustaining myself, teaching myself necessarily, stuff like that by myself for that, you know what I mean, a while. So it's like,
how draining
I feel
is
like
that?
because I got used to doing that. Huh?
How draining is that?
I mean, you get accustomed to it. I'm used to it. I don't see it as draining anymore because if I did, I'd probably be depressed.
Good answer. Good answer. Okay. So, how much would you say you trust yourself?
In terms of
like, I don't know, trusting your ability, trust that what you say you do, all that kind of jazz.
I'm not going to lie to you. There's times where I have like it's 50-50. I always, like I said to you, there's always a strong goal or a strong plan, but the desire, I always have to, do you know what I mean? You know, where you have to constantly remind yourself to do. I don't do that reminding part. That's why I feel like I fall back sometimes in certain situations and certain things. So I think, yeah, that's my answer.
So you remind yourself for like the stuff to achieve. That's where you feel like you flop.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so the things that you didn't remind yourself to achieve, like how important were they to you?
Like a lot of things that I plan are important to me. So it's just, I think it's the hunger, the desire, isn't. I don't know why it's not there. I don't know.
Are
I don't know if
you?
it's because I'm too nonchalant.
Would you
Yeah.
say that you're the kind of person that in the beginning of your goal is boom, boom, boom,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
then after a while it's like, oh.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, makes sense. Um, and yeah. So when it comes to like just goals and stuff like that, it's one of those ones where sorry, as I said that, it reminded me of a different graph in my head. I think it's like not a sine graph, it's like a sine to the power -1, something like that. It goes like that. But basically is it's the whole thing of like some of us, for example, like you know, let's say Tickzon, for example. I know some people that, you know, like would join, let's say Tickzon or something like that. They got so much energy. Let's go help young people. Let's go help people out, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of know from seeing them that, okay, I got this person is talking to me like they're going to be here for 2 years. I've got them for like a month. And so, but the thing is, when we start with a lot of our goals, we start with a lot of energy and we start with a lot of excitement and a lot of zeal. But then those are the moments where, again, we need to tell ourselves to chill because it's about consistency. So it's one of those ones I'm sure you've probably seen like what's it called? If you do 1% every day, you probably get further than somebody that does 20% today, then 50% in 2 months time, etc. So whenever you have the energy, it's about like harnessing it and spreading it out to keep it calm. So for example, like if you want to read these books, if I was to tell you to set a goal on how to read these books, I wouldn't tell you to go and read 20 pages. I wouldn't tell you to go and read 50 pages. I wouldn't even tell you to go and read 1 chapter. I'll tell you to go and read 1 page. Just 1 page. That's all. Once you read 1 page, that's it. That's all you gotta do. That's you done. Now, in practice, what happens most times is that people, first of all, whenever I tell somebody to read 1 page, they're looking at me like, what do you mean 1 page? I can do that. Like, that's like, it's just 1 page. And it's like, no, just read 1 page. And so what you find in practice, and I'll say it as opposed to you just for, you know, you if you go by it, you may see it or not. But what happens is that if your goal is only to read 1 page, then today you may read 1 page, you get through 1 page, and that's cool. But then after you read 1 page, you're sitting there like, rah, I can really read another page, you know. And so the goal is always just to read 1 page. And if I read 1 page as the bare minimum, just in practice anyway, whenever I've told somebody to do 1 page, then that's when they end up reading like 3, 4, 5 pages. Because even some of them look at it and say, like, my dickhead, like only 1 page. Like this book is more days in the year. And then then some days you might read 13, some days you might read 12, some days you might only read 1. But the goal is only to have 1 a day, 1 page a day. And in that way, the consistency by it is really what will make you finish the book, especially if you're not somebody who's used to it. Because you have to understand, what you're trying to establish isn't the fact that you're going to read books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What you're actually trying to establish is that you're the kind of person that reads books. So what you're trying to establish is actually just the habit of reading books. You know, it's one of those ones where like if you go into the kitchen every day, at some point you gotta cook something, you're gonna eat something. If you go to the gym every day, at some point you'd be like, you know what, let me carry this thing. Like, what's this? A dumbbell? This one's heavy. Give me the smaller one. Like, you carry something. So if your goal is literally to read 1 page every day, then what you're doing in the initial part is just establishing that you're the kind of person that actually reads books. You're not your goal is not, don't worry, you know, all those books, it might take you 20 years to read all of them. That's cool. But the fact that you can, because what we do sometimes, so a lot of us, we give ourselves unnecessary stretch goals, you know. And when I say unnecessary stretch goals, it's like, you know, let's say you're Elon Musk and you're like, I want to put a man on the moon. It's not an unnecessary stretch goal. It's one that will give you multiple goals to keep on pushing you. But then somebody says, okay, I want to read a book a week. That's really unnecessary. Like, you're chill. Like, who do you think you are? Like, what time do you have unless you're at home? Like, you know, unless you're at home, no friends, And even if you have no friends and you've got nothing, fam, I've had a week of free time, and the stuff I want to do, I'm just like, my bed is kind of good, you know, like it's really comfortable over here. So really, you know, setting goals. So it's important that whenever you have energy, and especially in the beginning of your goals and your stuff, you need to analyze yourself to make them sustainable and to make them. So for example, for me personally, you know, whenever I make a goal or make a plan, I try to make it fit around what I'm trying to do, still try and make it time to meet friends, family, all that kind of stuff. I timetable it. Even for example, with work, I've planned out my annual leave for the whole year to make sure that I don't go too long without a break, just to make sure that I'm putting myself to be sustainable in what I'm doing. Even with Tickzon, it's like, okay, I space it out so that, you know, even if I'm doing a lot of this stuff, I know that I don't just burn out, or at least there's a day for me to rest, or there's a day for me to get back, or I put it in consistently, not trying to do every day, not trying to do, even if you have the energy, you want to do everything, you kind of slow yourself down. So when you're trying to do your goals and stuff like that, it's very important to try to make them sustainable. So, you know, whatever whether it's the financial one, etc. Again, you want to make it sustainable. Even for example, now that you've not you spent most of the money that you saved before, the way to get back to it isn't to be like, okay, now I'm going to now be eating beans and toast. Okay, it's not the way to go. It's not the way to go. Like, trust me, like, you know, I save consistently, but I've saved more than a lot of people who earn more than me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just about the sheer consistency of how I've been saving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I mean. So, you know, you said have you read The Richest Man of Babylon?
Part of it.
So you know about the concept of pay yourself first.
Yes.
So the first 10% of your salary should go into your savings.
Yes.
So, you know, for example, I'm not trying to drag our aunties and uncles here, but a lot of our aunties and uncles, you know, a lot of them don't actually have savings at this point in time. They have money here or there, but they don't, you know, the ones that have saved properly and have money, it really reflects in their life already, because they were probably astute with money. But for most of our aunties, they just weren't educated on it. But for a lot of them, they always gave tithe every month, gave their 10% to church, gave their 10% to the pastor, everything. Now, if they'd done the same thing for themselves alongside it, so 20%, 10% to their savings, 10% to that, a lot of our aunts and uncles wouldn't be stressed right now.
Yeah.
But it's the sheer consistency of what you're trying to do. So it's about making your goals achievable. So, you know, so when it comes to you coming back into your finances, again, making all these things achievable for yourself, you kind of need to step back. Like, you need to just really, you know, because especially all of this thing is about bringing back discipline ultimately. But then discipline is not something you're going to wake up tomorrow and get.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's the reason why, first of all, you need to understand why you didn't have discipline in the first place. So, you know, for example, if I was doing this with somebody, you know, if they don't have a budget, then I'll ask them to show me their last 3 months of their bank statement, or what do they spend money on the most. For some people, they may say food, they may say clothes, and whatever. Now, for some people, for example, I know someone personally, she likes to buy stuff on ASOS. Half the things she's buying on ASOS, she's not even wearing. But it's whenever she's kind of a little bit stressed, or or she has a little bit of anxiety, then what she does around that time is go buy clothes. For somebody else, is whenever she's stressed, that's when she goes and buys food. And so you can now do the connection of, your problem isn't about you spending loads of money on food or spending money on loads on clothes. It's you're just, you know, you have anxiety. So the issue is deal with what's giving you anxiety, whether that means you giving breaks. For somebody else, it might be bored. If you're bored that much, go and see friends, go and have a hobby. But then you have to deal with the laziness of, you don't want to leave your room. So go and try and do something else. So about solving your problems to give you more discipline is kind of like holistically looking at what it is. So if you're going to start budgeting, I would say for you, first thing you need to do is probably look at how you spent your money in the last 3 months. And, you know, because the thing I like to tell everybody is that everybody has a budget. You know, regardless of whether you think you have a budget or you don't think you have a budget, most people spend their money around the same way every month. You know, there's kind of like, you know, it's peaks and troughs if there's like, you know, new birthdays or motives or stuff like that, but you can kind of trend out how they spend their money. And so everybody has a budget. The question is, are you in control or is it in control of you? And so and so that's the thing. So it's about, you know, trying to understand that. So even when it comes to, this is why I say it's all holistic. So I tell people, if you fix your financial life, 9 times out of 10 you'll fix your personal life, because most of your personal goals and personal things you're trying to achieve are also financial. And most people don't realize that they express themselves in their finances. So your priorities are reflected in your finances. You know, your stresses are affecting your finances. You know, the time I wasn't sleeping well and I wasn't going to bed on time, I was taking Uber because I wasn't managing my time well. The time I wasn't doing meal prep and cooking because I was tired as well, that's when I was buying stuff at Costa. Buying something at Costa, I could have used that whole money and made jollof rice. I'm buying something at Costa. What's the meaning of this? So you start seeing that reflecting your money. You know, okay, more money is going into drinks and savings. Then you're looking at enjoying life with friends more than you are going, you know, saving money for your future. Now, again, some people conflate, oh, does that mean I shouldn't enjoy time with my friends? No, you can chill. You guys can have a games night. You can come and watch a movie. You can go to the park. You can have a picnic. Then go to, like, you can now change the alternative of what you're doing while keeping the same activity. You can go to work, but maybe depending on where you are, instead of Ubering to work, you might need to take the train or you might need to take the bus. Maybe it's 30 minutes longer, but you save £10 in a week, £50 in a month. But it's an hour, it's 30 minutes longer. Okay, cool. Replace that 30 minutes time into your reading time. Boom. The time doesn't feel wasted because you're now doing two things. Even though you now need to wake up earlier, you're doing something that maybe you would have done in the evening. So how you change your life around a bit more in order to facilitate a budget is very important. Now, so in terms of like, what does financially stable look like to you?
Um, being more than comfortable. So financial stability to me is more so having enough, but being able to cater for those around me, like my loved ones. Like obviously the dream is to retire our parents, to have generational wealth, to have assets. Do you get? So I
Okay.
don't just want to be able to drive a nice car and live in a nice house. I want to be able to impact those around me with my finances as well.
Okay. So, you know, admirable, but we need to slow you down first. Okay.
Mm, 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 mm.
So now, are your parents working?
Oh yeah.
They're working right now. Okay. So this is one of
Mm,
the this is one of the important things I tell, especially to Black people more so,
mm.
especially yeah, especially Black people within Africans actually more so, Black people in general. I think so. There's levels to these things, and this is where I say, do not don't stretch yourself too far. It's compounding. You need to do certain things to get where you need to be.
Of course, yeah.
And so, again, it's like, if I you can't you cannot pour into somebody's cup if there's nothing inside yours. You're just there doing,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
so the first thing I tell like Black people first and foremost is that it's good if you have a conversation with your parents about their retirement plan. Now, obviously, that's the question of if you know how your parents are, because some of them get triggered by that kind of question and all that kind of thing. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of our parents don't necessarily have a retirement plan. And if they don't have a retirement plan, then you are the retirement plan. But most of the people don't realize that they're the retirement plan. So you're going to know it when they retire and they don't have money. Be like, oh, my son, my daughter. So it's good for you to have that conversation, that if you know you're going to be in that position, then it's what it
I
is.
have.
Okay, that's good. But it's important. The
Yeah.
second thing is important is that if they don't have a retirement plan, I'm not gonna lie, this is where no sympathy in what I'm about to say. if they're still working, they should be contributing to that retirement plan. They should really not be slacking. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I love our parents, but everybody fix up. Like, it's not even a joke thing. Auntie, uncle, you know, if you know that if you're going to retire, again, this is where everything needs to be specific, because I always take people, anyway, I'll get to that point in a second. But they need to know if they want to go to Nigeria, if they want to be in the UK, Ireland, wherever they want to be, how much will it take for them to retire on? How much do they have saved? How much do they make now and working? How much can they put in? So it's very important, not on a rude thing, but you need to be able to squeeze as much as possible out of your parents while they're working and contributing. Because for a lot of us, you know, we're looking to take care of our parents, retire our parents. It's all cute and all nice, even though in retrospect, it's supposed to be the other way around. But we find ourselves as a Black generation in a different predicament that we have to do what we have to do. But especially for us, where our parents are here in the West, as much as they can contribute, because as much as they can contribute, because financial stress upon person's head is probably one of the biggest leader to mental problems, stress, with stress be killing people, with suicide, all these things, people coming at home, breakdown, all the kind of things, especially because as young people, especially for a lot of us that have not married or had kids yet and all these kind of things, it's very hard for us to kind of fully carry all of that weight, especially if you now go and marry somebody, you're trying to carry his own family, you're trying to carry family, now you're trying to make family, everybody trying to carry everything. We see some of our uncles and aunties, they're stressed, and when it comes to money and family, there's always some bickering. Auntie's still in Nigeria chatting about land, but we need to do these things a smart way. So it's good that you've had a conversation with your parents about retirement, but now it's also about not just that it's noble of you as the child wanting to, you know, retire your parents, but your parents need to contribute to that retirement. It's not a oh, they raised you and whatever. They did their duty, and even if you don't want to do your duty, even though you want to do your duty to them, they need to contribute for you to be able to do that. You know, you're not in position right now, if they say they want to retire tomorrow, that you can retire them. So that's not the position you're in today. So to retire your parents as they're working now, again, you need to have the conversation how much they're going to put into it, or even, to be honest, put some responsibility on their head to be able to look at you to retire. Because I always tell people, like, you know, looking at kids to retire you, you know, knock wood, but there's no guarantee any of us are here tomorrow. So what happens if I go tomorrow? Then my mama is just looking at my grave, being like, child, I don't just lose my retirement at the same time. So at least if my mom is saving £200 here or there, at least she started with something. You know, she's got a 1 month emergency plan. You know, if she has to go back to work, at least she can sit down for 1 month and she knows what she's doing. And then obviously when you come into saving, then depending on your parents' age and whatnot, that's when you now talk about investing or where to invest, and ideally just invest in index funds, especially if they're closer to retirement and whatnot. Just simple fund, you know, index fund, S&P 500, FTSE 250 to 100. I don't know what it is in Dublin, but these are the ones that everybody be doing over here. Well, and
so investments work the same all over the world, but
sorry?
I'm pretty sure. I feel like no, continue. Sorry, what were you saying?
No. I know they're the same all over the world. I mean, like, I don't know what you know, that FTSE 100 and 250 are the top in the UK. S&P 500 is top in America. You've got like the Deutsche is a DBX. I think Ireland have their own. I mean, every country has their top whatever index. That's what I mean. But obviously S&P 500 best. I like FTSE 250 as well because that's good for me. But yeah, so you're in terms of retirement. So, you know, before we get you to comfortable, we need to define what comfortable looks like. Okay. So, because a lot of us, we say comfortable. So how much is comfortable?
No, I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like I'm comfortable now, but I'm more so complacent than comfortable. Like, I'm okay with what I have, which isn't good enough.
So it's not, what's not good enough about what you have right now?
I feel stagnant. Do you get, like, I'm able to obviously pay my rent, feed myself, give my siblings, pocket money and the support they need from afar. But it's like I can do better. I know I can.
Okay. So I would say to you this, yeah. So again, similar to the cup, it's one of those ones where when you want to help people, the best position to help people is when you've helped yourself first. So I would say to you this, in terms of getting yourself in this financial journey, the simple formula is spend less, save more, invest more, make more money, and then worry about taxes. And then along the way, as you increase your money, you increase your savings and investment. And then when you get to a certain point, it's taxes you're worrying about. It's, it is what it is. That's what it is. But in terms of growing from a bottom up kind of thing, first thing, obviously, it seems like you have an income, seems like you're sustaining yourself. Your next thing is to create that emergency fund. So creating an emergency fund, start by obviously creating a first month, a 3 month, and then a 6 month. Now, 6 month can take 2 years to create, or a year or 2 years, depending on how you save. But first thing you want to aim for is 1 to 3 months. Now, your emergency fund, now when you create your budget, there's going to be 5 buckets to your budget. Depending on where you are in life, there may be 0 in some aspects. You have your needs, you have your wants, you have your savings, you have your investments, and you have your debts. So your needs are, if shit hit the fan, if you pay these, you have roof over your head, you have small food to eat, and you have no creditors or bill people or people coming to come for you in terms of needs. This is what you need: transport to get to work, food to eat, shelter. It's got nothing to do with any extracurricular, except any of these things are seriously attached to your mental health. Like for some people, gym is attached to their mental health. So it may be a need as opposed to, I like gym. It's, if it's not seriously attached, some people just be making excuses. Oh, Netflix. No, it's not that deep. Like if you were bare bones, they took all your money. Are you going to buy your Netflix subscription and live outside? So you wouldn't even be able to. Then your wants is anything extra. Savings is the money you save. Then investments is the money that you save to invest. And then debts, obviously credit cards, loans, any of those kind of things. And so when it comes to your emergency fund, if you have debts, then your emergency fund should include all your minimum payments for your debts, all your needs, and then maybe small money for wants. And then when it comes to saving investment, you kind of just stop unless you want to involve that into your emergency fund, which is kind of counterintuitive. So your emergency fund should be your needs plus your debts, and then maybe some wants that will keep you going, depending on what lifestyle you want. Assuming you lost your job, you lost all income, how much you would need, and then you can actually extend it as much as you want. So if your needs in terms of rent and whatever, plus if you have no debts, let's say your rent and food, maybe let's say that's £1,000. And then, but you want to have like £2,000 so that you can keep your lifestyle up for that month. That's what you do on friends and going out. That's £2,000. So if you want 3 months, you need £6,000. If you want 6 months, you need £12,000. And that's why it can take up to like a couple of years for you to get to the 6 months. So what you want to do is that you want to get the first month going first. So that's your emergency fund. So there's emergency fund. There's something called so make your first month or go out to 3 months, but start off with the first month. Then there's something called a sinking fund. So a sinking fund is basically money you put aside that is separate from your emergency fund, because emergency fund is purely for emergency, not, it's not all my days, I'm gonna be late. It's serious emergency, not like, somebody's severely sick, I'm gonna be homeless, I'm losing my job, not I missed my train today. Can you buy me a ticket right now? That's not an emergency. You messed up, jump the train, tell them you thought it was the same train. The ticket man will be, unless the ticket man's a waste man, they should just allow you. If they don't, then give them your middle name that's not on any documents. I didn't say anything, and then let them be going. But like emergency, then the sinking fund is basically like if you have things you're trying to do, then it's for example, if you want to buy a house, you want to go on holiday, you want to buy a car, you want to do all these things, then these are the saving pots you put those money to. Even if it's 20 pounds, whatever, you put money towards that so that you have money set aside for the financial goals you want to achieve. And then, you know, you have any extra, you know, obviously save and invest, you know, you should be investing, but in terms of just saving in general, then you kind of know what disposable income you have. Then for the next thing you probably want to be looking at is investing, and consistently investing, whether that, even if it's £10 a month, £20 a month, whatever it may be, continue investing, especially if you have an emergency fund. Because the thing is, now if you have an emergency fund, one, get to 3 months, then when you come to be helping people, then you're already secure that you know that you're helping people, but you're not holding yourself back from the goals you're trying to achieve. Then it comes down into investing and building wealth and doing all those kind of things, and all those other venues. For example, like if let's say you want to buy, a good one for you to understand is, I don't know why my nose is itching me. A good one for you to understand would, in the sense of, and when you break down your money into these different pots, then you understand that there's a difference between having money, or basically there's a difference between what you have in your bank account and what you can afford. And so what you can afford is basically how much do you have, like, you know, the idea when it comes to budgeting is that you should give your money a name. Even investing, the idea of investing in somebody, I forgot who said this, but he said that basically investing is basically your money is like a little armies. Send them outside to go and win battles for you and bring back prisoners. That's the whole point. When you get to a point where your money is making money, then you are now in a more secure point. And so I went blank. What was I saying?
You said your money is like a prisoner.
Yes. So what you can afford and what you have are two different things. So for example, some people don't break down their money like this, so that's when they see their goals coming back. So for example, let me say you need, you know, again, buying a car, buying a house, whatever, it's depending if you need it as opposed to want it, whatever. But let's say you want to buy a car, and then that's one of the things in your sinking funds. If you don't have a sinking fund, after you paid your rent and everything, you have all your savings in one place, and it looks like you have all this money saved. So when somebody asks for you for £500 because you have £2,000 saved, it seems like, cool, yeah, I got this, I can give you that. But then now you've stepped back your car, not realizing you stepped back that car another 2 months, because you now need to save another £250 for 2 months to get to that point. Whereas if you understand that you can't afford it at that point in time, then you just have to let that person know that you can't afford it. And so why that can hinder you sometimes is that you could maybe have, let's say you want to buy a house now, you could have £10,000 now saved, and so you want to go for this investment property that maybe won't give you put a lot of your money in the beginning, but then it will start creating dividends in the end, and then you start seeing the money come and it'll start growing. You know, if you have £10,000, if everyone knows that you have £10,000, everyone thinks you have £10,000, then for them, what they see is £10,000. They don't see that you can't afford to give them £500 or £1,000, because that £10,000, you can't afford it. You can't afford to give it to them, because it would stop you from doing something that's one of your goals that will help you generate more wealth. If you understand what I mean. So when your money has a name, and when you've allocated all the names to all your money, then you know the amount of money you can be giving out, unless there's other things. If you want to add them as names to your pot, but you just need to understand how far your money can stretch. And then the next thing, when it comes to family and stuff like that, one of the best gifts you can give them is to also increase their financial literacy by educating them about these things. Because a lot of times within people, they'll have like 1-2 people who kind of know what they're doing with their money, and then end up becoming the person who everybody depends on. But if you share this knowledge and these skills, then everybody can kind of get involved in doing it on their own and being a bit more independent, but contributing into it becoming a bigger thing, if that makes sense. In that you can now start, they now know, okay, this money is not always guaranteed. I need to start saving as well. I need to start trying to invest. I need to try and start bringing my money up. And, you know, because it's nice to do or to feel like you could do it all by yourself, but it's important for you to understand that these kind of things need to be in place for you to end up being able to make generational wealth. So, you know, some people, for example, they may have generational wealth. They may have, generational wealth will come whether if our kids and our kids are smart enough to do what they need to do with it. Because most times generational wealth is secured when the money passes the third generation. The second generation typically squanders it. The third generation rarely kind of fully passes on to the fourth generation. So that's when we secure generational wealth. But in order to get that, you kind of need something to build on. And so it's about, you know, distributing the knowledge around the people around you, your family and stuff like that, and letting them understand. It's not going to be nice in the beginning, to be honest, because when it comes to money and stuff like that, people, instead of learning about how to budget, they'll be like, sister, auntie, just give me the money. Just give me the £100, give me the £200. I don't, this is nice and all, but you know, this is, you know, but it's important to be able to share that knowledge, because if not, it's not sustainable in the long term for you to get there. So when it comes to building generational wealth, it's about ultimately, again, like you already understand, it's about accumulating assets. What type of assets? I let everybody kind of do at their own discretion, but building assets to the point where you can now, to a point where your money is now making you money. And so that's when you now in the position to now say you're even more comfortable. But then even in the word comfortable, I always also need to let people know at times whereby there's times where we don't deserve to be comfortable, basically. Or there's times where being comfortable will actually be at the detriment of us securing what we want to secure, if that makes sense. So, you know, for example, car. People, you know, instead of somebody to go get a reliable, you know, Toyota Yaris, Ford Focus, they want to get that BMW, Mercedes, blah, blah, blah. That is like, look, I mean, I've been good. Let me treat myself, vroom, vroom. But it's more expensive. It's 2K more. It's £250 more per month. That's money that could be spent on investing that will grow. That could be money that could be invested, put in a more wiser place. Whereas you're in a position where in 3 years' time, you're making dividends that can now pay for that. Your money is paying for it by just by virtue. You know, some people who are very smart investors they would always say only spend the interest. Only spend the interest. So I don't know if you're familiar with something called the FIRE movement.
Sorry?
Are you familiar with something called the FIRE movement?
No.
Okay, so the FIRE movement is something called financially independent retire early. So these are people who are living super frugally right now, saving as much as they can in order for them to retire early. And there's a 4% rule, whereby they invest all the money that they can invest over a period of time in order to get to a point where they're earning at least 7% interest or compounding on their money. And so all they will withdraw from their money is 4% every year. So there's still 3% to kind of grow, and then that goes to 7%. You take 4%, that's 6%, and you never actually run out of money because you're only withdrawing 4% of your money. And so the idea of
when you say withdrawing 4% of your money, do you mean that 4% goes towards your needs?
No, to everything. So for example, let's say if I was I'm just gonna make up numbers basically. If I was doing if I was investing 10K per year, and so if let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so let's say you invested £10,000, yeah?
Yeah.
So the idea is if you invested £10,000, let me say, what's it called? I'm doing it, investing £10,000 every year, compound interval yearly. Okay, and let me say we do this for 20 years.
Okay.
Now, if I calculate this, I'm getting a 7% return. Now, the idea is, if I look at it, you don't even need to get to 20 years. In 10 years' time, I could withdraw £10,000 every year. So I could withdraw. So at this point, I could withdraw £10,000 every year and still be fine, because the interest that I'm making here is more than £10,000. You can go by that principle. Or if you're making 7% every year, if at this point every year you withdraw only 4% of this money, you will never run out of the money, basically. So if you withdrew, what's 4% of let me do this. Control C. 0.04. And so that would be 9,546. Okay. So if you drew 4% of that, 9,446, you're making more than that in just interest. That's how much interest you're making that year. So this is the power of compound interest. So if you're consistently investing over time, so what people don't realize, for example, £100 a month.
No, so I understand the concept of compounding, but I don't get this 4%. When you say 4%, do you mean that for that year they're only going to spend 4%, or they're only going to spend 4% of their investments?
They're going to only spend 4% of what's called their investment, their total investment at that point in time.
Okay,
When they come to
I
retire.
thought you meant like. Okay,
Oh no,
I thought you meant 4%.
I went. Go on.
No, I thought you meant 4% in the year, as in like out of everything they earn, they only spend 4%.
No, only 4% of their what's it called, of their investment. So that's the reason why some people, S&P 500, it's never returned a negative component in 30 years. Or like if you look at the UK, for example, if you were to do 20,000 in the FTSE 250, which would be your ISA limit if you're in the UK citizen, let's say 6% over 30 years, and you were using your ISA limit, which is a 20,000, tax-free. This would be tax-free. You wouldn't pay tax on this over 30 years. Let's say you started at 20, whatever, you'd have over $1 million in your account. And then if you withdrew only 4%, or even if you withdrew, because of how this is growing, if you withdrew £80,000 per year, you'd still be fine. So, but this requires the FIRE movement. Obviously, they want to retire early. So even if I just Google FIRE movement, what's it called? Live frugally, retire decades early. No, I don't want to see the BBC. I don't care about you. Let's go to Investopedia. So it's just that let me see if I can find so yeah, so around typically 3 to 4% per year. So plan to retire early, traditional age 65. So these guys dedicate 70% of their income to savings while still in the workforce. Once their savings reach approximately 30 times their yearly expenses, often around roughly 1 million, they may quit their jobs or completely retire to cover their living expenses. FIRE devotees make small withdrawals from their savings, typically around 3 to 4%, and their money never runs out mathematically, provided obviously they just take about 3 to 4%. If you start taking about 7%, it depends on what return you're getting. If you're getting 10% return, you can take 5%, if that all makes sense. So it's just basically less than what you are making. And so once you now look into investing and you've made your solid base, then you can start helping people and then basically increase everybody else's knowledge so they can start saving. I don't care how much anybody's making, it doesn't stop them from saving. The first thing you need to do is save 10% of the money that you're making every month should go to savings, no questions asked. Then the easiest way to start off a budget, 10% goes to savings. Don't care. 10% goes to your savings. Second thing, what are your needs? So rent, whatnot, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's sorted. Then, what's it called? Add a bit more to savings. No, sorry. After rent and all that kind of stuff, if you have any credit card debts or anything, pay all the minimum payments, minimum plus £10 or whatever. Minimum plus 10%, because minimum payments are designed for you to stay in debt. So minimum payments plus 10%. And then, define how much you want to spend on once, and then at this point is when you will now see how much money you have left. So you got food and transport sorted, and you have left the rest of your money. Then this is where you now decide what your priorities are. So is your priority savings? Is your priority investing? Is your priority building up a pot of money into other stuff? Is your priorities to go out? Is your priorities to enjoy? Is your priorities to, what are your priorities? And then this is the simplest way to start budgeting. And then you kind of know where you're at there, and you decide what to do there. So I would say, and then obviously when it comes to you budgeting, it's about making your whole life a bit more holistic to facilitate you achieving your goals, whether that be financial or spiritual. So I would say to you, in terms of budgeting, I would say look through your accounts, or look, if either that or kind of it's coming to the end of the month, this month, the week before you get your pay, that's when you should kind of plan how your money is going to be spent the next month. Sorry?
That's today.
Yeah, that's when you plan it. But and that's how you plan it effectively. Most people are more strapped for cash like a couple of days before payday. That's when people are strapped for cash because they didn't plan it well. So when you plan it, allocate how much you want to spend each week into food or whatnot. If you cook, me, I've got like a food timetable. I kind of buy bulk every, what I'm gonna buy, and then I know what my recurring ones are. So milk, bread, onions, and Scotch bonnet. Every 2 weeks, I know what I'm gonna go get. I've got, so I end up eating well, but somehow only spend like 120 pounds a month on food. But obviously I cook all my food, so if you don't know how to cook, then that's an issue. So
huge issue.
Huh?
I said a huge issue.
No,
Go on, sorry.
And so so start off with so make a week before you get paid, plan what you're gonna do. I would say for the next 60 days, check all your accounts every day. Just look at them every day. Open every single account, every single credit card, every single saving account, every single current account. Open every single one every day at least once. And you'll see that the thing is, even if you don't listen to any of the things I've said, if you look at your account today, you look at it tomorrow, you look at it next tomorrow, you look at it, you'll be like, rah, yesterday there was £1,000 there, Today there's 600. What did I buy? Oh, tomorrow there's like 300. Like, my guy, there's still more days in the month, what's happening? Oh, and then and I would say after 60 days, stop, because the people can, it's because at some point your brain will be like, shit, I know how much in that account. You'll get a bit stressed. It'll be, but look at your account literally every single day for 60 days. Plan your money a week before. I typically I've already kind of planned out my next couple of months. Again, because when it comes to financial goals, it's about you look at a long-term view. I did goal setting and planning here, but there's a more advanced way of how you make your short-term lead into your long-term kind of thing. So, but start off slow. Check your account every day. Budget out before the month.
Yes.
Give yourself penalties.
Sorry, say that again.
Give yourself penalties. Budget basically plan.
Sorry, do you mind repeating the budget point?
Oh, I said budget, like basically the week before. Basically plan it before. Plan where your money is going before you even get paid. Give yourself penalties.
Okay.
So like I said, I tax myself if I'm flopping. Even when I started investing, I remember what it was. It's like I'd still invest, but I'd still, once in a while I'll buy a cheeky lottery ticket. But every time I bought a lottery ticket, I'll take 5 times the amount I bought on a lottery ticket and went and invested it. No question asked. No one told me to go and buy. I saw lollipop, I saw lottery ticket. Now £10 is going into the savings. The £10 didn't want to leave my account, but I had to. So tax yourself, create penalties for yourself when you're flopping, or just to keep yourself in check. Have multiple accounts. out,
Yeah.
out of
Okay.
sight, out of mind. So use your accounts very efficiently. So if you have your current account, this is how I set up my accounts. I have account for bills. I have account for enjoyment. I account for savings. I have account for savings for X, Y, and Z. I have multiple savings accounts, standing orders. Just once I get paid, I just get my money for spend, and I just be whackering around with the money for spend. If that tells me it's empty, it's like chai. Oh well, chai. I guess I'm ghost. Simple. Ghost. And so you use your accounts efficiently because again, people, if you kind of know yourself, this is when I say about threats. If you know yourself that you see it there, you think you have money, no, like redirect, leave again, you still want to have a rainy day fund. So obviously I forgot to mention that you have sinking fund, emergency fund, but you want to have a little bit of a rainy day fund. You can start off with just £100. You could make that up to £1,000. And then once you have that rainy day fund, you can, and as long as you never need to go into it, then the extra money you get next month, you don't need, you allocate as you want. You can maybe give out more money to some people or help more people. But then that if let me say you have a car and you need to change a tire, you're not going to go into your emergency fund. You're not going to go into your sinking fund, which are plans for other stuff. You have your rainy day fund there ready for that. You shouldn't really have anything that is going to be over 1K. If it's over 1K, then I don't know what's happening. If it's over 1K, you have problem. That's what you have. That's problem. So yeah, check your accounts, do all of that, use your accounts efficiently. What did I want to say? Oh yeah, so as much as you have taxes for yourself, reward yourself as well. Give yourself a little, when you're allocating your money, give yourself allocate the play money. If you like shopping a lot, I'm not going to take you from 100 to 0. I'm going to take you from 100 to 50. Allocate how much money you are allowed to spend on clothes.
I wish it was just 100.
So, but I'm saying, like, if it's ridiculous, yeah, then you need to take yourself to reasonable. Okay, so if you deep, I mean, it's a pandemic, and all of you man that are spending money in this pandemic is like really on clothes specifically. It's like, come on. But at least if it's food, I understand. You can come out here saying you have pandemic weight. All of this is pandemic clothes. The most you do is ASOS haul on Instagram and YouTube. That's it. The clothes are not going anywhere. There's no Afro Nation. There's no nothing.
They're just collecting dust.
Just collecting dust. So, and this one is only one picture now, and you're not going to wear it again. So make it reasonable. If you're spending £500-600, this is when you're looking at it, when you break down your budget and you write it down on paper, you're like, when you start seeing how much you're spending, you take £600 now and you're spending on clothes that you're not going to even wear most of them. And then you look at it like, you have to understand, if you look at it plain eyes, you're fucking yourself up, mate. There's no reason for this. But £500 a month, that's 6K at the end of the year. That's 6K at the end of the year. Invest that in something, or save that at least. Put it in even if it's collecting small interest, even if it's below inflation, you're better than someone that doesn't have anything. Yeah, that's £500 a month. By the end of the year, you have your 3 months emergency fund if it's 2K per month. That's how much you're planning on. That's what you're doing on clothes every Saturday. It's like, oh, ASOS, pretty little thing. Oh, I'm a pretty little thing, And so, when you start breaking it down, but allocate it, give yourself still, even though I would say, cut it out, still account for everything. So if I'm going to spend on clothes anyway, and I know I'm going to spend on clothes, now you have to manage it. You don't need to don't go to 0. Because if you go to from 100 to 0, when you taste a little bit, that person that person that just recovered from drinking, and then they know that they don't enter bars because they know that if they smell it, they're gonna move mad. You don't. That's how most of us are when we go from 100 to 0. So give yourself a little budget. If it's only, let's say you've gone from 600 to only £80, that's £20 a week. You go there, you're looking, you actually look for a deal, you find free dresses, 2 dresses, £9.99, £7.99. All these slippers are nice. You satiate that. But again, even though you give yourself that budget, you need to space out the budget, because the thing is about managing it. You don't go and get that £100 budget and say, okay, I've done it now. What happens on week 2, 3, and 4 when you're looking at ASOS? You feel like you missed out on a good thing. You're convincing yourself. You're saying, but it's a good deal though. It's a good deal though. It's a good deal though. Like, come on, it's free. Come on, like this would look good. This would look good on me. Like, you're having a conversation with yourself. No, space out the budget so that it makes sense. So you can actually, even me that cooks a lot, I have a budget for like, okay, cool, takeout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, because if not, I know in uni what is happening is that I was cooking. I reached a point where I was like, I can't be asked to be doing this cooking thing. And then it was Nando's, Chinese, Five Guys, Korean, what's it called, Lebanese. I was going Turkish. Boss man was busting me. Like, fam, it's just a mad because you didn't manage it. Like once in a while, give yourself that. It feels good when you're doing it right, but like at some point, it's all about managing it. Like, for example, my phone. Social media is never a problem for me. If I'm busy, I dash my phone. If someone messages me and I'm not busy, I'm no problem. But for some people, they need to really dash their phone because they know when they're on it, they're there for 6 hours, then they need to dash their phone. This is when people will be telling me they're doing fast from their phone. You don't need to fast on something. You don't need to fast on anything you're managing well. You understand?
Yeah.
You know what? If you're already eating balanced diet, you don't need to be saying I'm on a diet. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So it's just about managing it so it's consistent, because that way you're in control. That's all it is. You're in control. It's still there, but you're in control of it. Okay, cool. I'll buy one clove here or there instead of like boom, scratching that itch that builds up. That builds up. So yeah, give yourself a budget for all the stuff. Uber, all these kind of things. But understand how you can change your life to incorporate these things. Now, in terms of,
so I just have one question now.
Go for it.
You said multiple accounts.
Yep.
I have bills, enjoyment. Then what are the other ones? I have multiple accounts, but that's God. I don't think they're spread out enough. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So like I don't think my funds are spread out enough in them. So you have one for bills, you have one for enjoyment. What else?
So let me see if I can find, because I remember I made a video on this, but let me see if I remember what I said in that. But I have basically I have one for bills, enjoyment, online payments. The online payments is
Wait, online payments like direct debits, yeah?
No. Online payments as in basically, but that one's a credit card. So I have credit cards, current accounts, and savings accounts. But my credit cards, I always use them for buying tickets, doing online payments, anything like that, because it's more secure to use a credit card. And then I have the money in a separate savings account that just gets transferred straight into that one to pay that off. I also tell people to have an enjoyment money. So like one of my cards is that goes in. So my Monzo, that goes in for my spending money. Now within my Monzo, it's already synchronized. That money gets split into 4, put into different pots, and then what is there is literally that week's enjoyment money. Okay, so that week's enjoyment money is used on that. Yeah, that week's enjoyment money is used on that. And then you have you can have multiple savings accounts for, obviously, if you're in UK, Help to Buy, Lifetime ISA, you have the accounts for different sinking funds. So whether it's to save for a house, should be in a separate one, for the one to save for your holiday, to save for your, what's it called, car. They should all be in separate savings accounts. And then you have your rainy day in a separate savings account. If it's long-term goals, you can have the car and the house in the same one. Well, I would always say house should be separate, but you can have, let's say, holiday and car in the same one. And then you have a rainy day fund, and then you have just extra. So it's just about kind of like, depending on what you're doing, then you should have like different accounts, what's it called, to facilitate that. Let me see, like a boss. What's it called? Let me see. And then obviously when you have these different accounts, then the whole idea as well is for you to basically set up English, you go set up direct debits for these things, especially for the predictable stuff. Send direct debits every every what's it called? Basically, I've already set up the direct debits for all my savings and everything. Just direct debits, not direct debits, standing orders. They're two different things. So standing orders for all of that, so that the money that's left in that main account is bills account. If your bills account is a separate account, then you send all your money to that account. And so basically the idea is, if you have all your, let's say you have Netflix and all these different things coming out from different accounts, go and change your account details and have them all come into one account, total it up, how much you're coming out, and then just send it to that money, to that account, to that money. So you already know. You should never have anybody calling you to say, "Oga, madam, where my money?" And then obviously, one of the first thing that leaves my account before anything is pay yourself first. 10% of my income always leaves my account before anybody smells my money. It doesn't matter who it is. And that's one of the big principles from the richest man in Babylon, whereby the first person you should pay is yourself. So what most people do is that they synchronize all their bills to their payday. And so when you get paid, the first person you end up paying is BT, free, your landlord, all these things. You know, you're paying rent, you're saying it's for yourself. You're buying clothes, you're saying it for yourself. But no, you're paying ASOS, you're paying Pretty Little Thing, you're paying Primark before you've paid yourself. 10% of your money should always go to savings. That's you paying for yourself. And so that's this how you can use your accounts, and then you can have more accounts depending on what you're doing, obviously mortgages and all this kind of stuff. And then investing, obviously you have an investing account, account where investing can go straight into, or if it's not automatic to go into, you can have a separate account or savings account that your investment account can take money directly from, and that all kind of gets allocated, and you kind of just, your money, it just all goes to where it needs to be. And that's how you use your accounts a bit more efficiently in order for you to kind of hit those goals. Then in terms of like gaining discipline, so again, when it comes to you need to do, probably won't have enough time in this evening to do it, but you need to kind of like reset, kind of like both in terms of how you spend your time, what's important to you, define why they're important to you, and what you want to achieve.
Sorry. Before you continue, I just want to copy this link. 2 seconds. Sorry.
Sorry?
The link you sent in the.
Okay.
I said before you continue talking. Yeah, I just wanted to copy that.
Cool.
Okay, so now you can say. Go on.
Yeah. So obviously we probably won't have enough time in this one, but basically, to get the discipline back, it's about taking yourself, on, let's say, on a little journey from 0 to 15, then from 15 to 23, 23 to 37, like, not hitting yourself from, okay, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, NK is gonna be disciplined. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So, so one of the first things I'll tell you in terms of reading, your aim should be to read once a day. At least 1 page a day. That's all you need to do. Take that as your goal. Tell yourself, the overachiever inside, tell that person to chill. All you need to do is 1 page a day. Because I know as you're telling you now in your head, you're saying, okay, I can make it 2. No. Just 1 page. Even though I explained it before, just 1 page. That's the goal. If you do more, then pat yourself on the back, you've done well. But if you don't do it, then you know that you're flopping. Because when life gets, this is the thing, people just take that 1 page so easily, but when life gets busy, that's when you really be testing yourself. 1 page every day. That's how you develop the habit. 1, 2, again, you need to kind of like reset your life, look at your timetable in terms of work, all these kind of things, and then making sure that you are getting the best out of everything. So are you sleeping well? And when I say sleep well, not that you're getting 8 hours, but you're getting a consistent 8 hours at a decent time. There's actually, I don't know what it is, but there's a difference. Even if you slept at 12 and woke up at 8 a.m. and slept at 10 and woke up at 6 a.m., there's a big difference in the quality of sleep you have from the earlier you sleep. Even somebody who slept at 9 and woke up at 3, only had 6 hours, probably had a better quality of sleep than somebody who slept at 11 and woke up at 7. There's something weird about your body and that, but just know how you sleep effectively. So sleeping well, eating well.
Okay.
Are you eating at least 3 times a day? Are you eating because you need to, not because you want to eat? A lot of people is like, I don't feel the urge to eat. Your body, especially breakfast, is the most important meal of the day. Why? Because even if some people their last meal is at 6, 7 p.m.
Yeah.
So that means, go on.
So I don't have any issues with food whatsoever. I think I even overeat. I eat 5 meals a day.
Okay.
I mean, that's excluding snacks. I feel like what I need to do is even reduce the eating. But yeah, go on.
The amount you eat in terms of quantity is not the problem. The whole thing about it is, do you use the calories coming? Like me personally, I've never had a diet, but I typically use probably even more calories than I have even coming in. So even if I have a mountain, it's not showing up because it's all about calorie in out. How much do you use? How active are you, etc. If you see these strong men, these guys who are doing, if you see what they're eating, it's making me sick anyway. They're just eating. Yeah, it's like chill. So in terms of, but just
so I used to use the calories when I actively worked, but now I work from home remotely, so none of the calories are being used.
So then now you need to see how you, what's it called, get active. So every kind of like hour and a half, you need to get up from your desk and move around for a little bit, get your blood moving, because again, this is about overall health. If people think, okay, I'm just at home, a lot of us develop back problems because of just being in office for a long time. So get up, stretch your legs. I have an alarm every 2 hours to remind me to drink water, because I can be so busy I forget to drink water. So how hydrated are you staying? Are you drinking water? Again, drink water spread out through the day as opposed to at one point in time. Food, is it balanced? X, Y, Z. And then how are you incorporating breaks? And then now, how are you most effective? Like, how are you most productive? So you've figured out your sleep, you figured out your eat, you figured out your water, the snacks and whatever, balanced diet, whatnot. But how are you most productive? So are you somebody that likes to procrastinate? Are you somebody that if you're doing something for too long, then you're going to wander off? Kind of account for those things. And kind of like, for me, I tell people scheduling procrastination. I do something called like the 25-minute rule for myself, whereby if I have a task, I'll tell people if I go to university to revise, out of 8 hours revision, I only revised 4 hours, but the 4 hours was quality. So I know that if I'm going to go there for 8 hours, I'm going to have some breaks. I'm going to walk around, talk to people. I'm going to look at YouTube. I'm going to be singing Hakuna Matata, like Disney's going to be there somehow. Disney's been motivated my revision for a long time. See, Mulan, I'll make a man out of you. Listen. So I know that's going to happen. So I really schedule it in. I know those 4 hours, but if I did 8 hours, I know those 4 hours are quality. But it's how I know I'm going to be productive. So me, I do the 25-minute thing whereby I come for an hour and my goal is only to work for 25 minutes. And so if I do more, and then I have 35-minute break. So, and the thing is, if I go from that 25 minutes, let me say if I have 8 hours, I have 25 minutes in that hour. Now, if I find myself in the zone, whatever, and I pass 25 minutes. Anytime I go over that 25 minutes, I'm eating into my break. If there's 10 minutes left, I've got 10 minutes break. And then if I miss that break, I go into the second hour, and then I either go into my next task or I continue. And so that works for me, that I always have the time for break. So my brain is kind of anticipating it, because sometimes my brain forces me to take a break or wants to procrastinate because it's like, fam, we've been doing this for too long. So know how you're productive, and then kind of make that into the timetable of what you're doing in terms of your life. So how you timetable friends and all those kind of things. And that's where you kind of find out where you timetable in reading, whether that be reading books separate to reading the Bible. Then there's things you can do to set your day completely right. So do you wake up early or do you wake up late? Early. Cool. Beautiful. So before you go to bed in the night, there's 2 things I want you to do. I want you to set out the clothes for your activities the next day. So if you're going to go jogging or running or any exercise, set them out, put the mats next to it.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
And then set out your clothes for work. Cool. So you're already doing that. So you're already doing better than a lot of people. The second thing is to write your to-do list for the next day.
Yeah. And that's why I stopped doing that. That's where things started going left.
So when you have your to-do list for the next day, the interesting thing about how you go to bed is very interesting on how it sets you up for the next day, because people wake up and they're like, okay, what am I going to do today? Blah, blah, blah. Now you've woken up, you don't have to waste that morning mental energy of like, what am I going to do today? You know, me, when I used to jog every day from sixth form to about uni, my clothes or what I was going to jog was always just there ready. So immediately I'd wake up, I'd literally, honestly, muscle memory, push myself out of bed, boxes, you know, it's just there, shorts there, shoes, boom, sleep still in my eye. I'm walking downstairs because my brain is already like, listen, we already know what the mission was. We went to bed ready, like we woke up ready for war. And so having your things there, good. Having your to-do list, knowing that what you want to do the next day, good. Then what's it called? Then before you go to bed, then again, it depends how you want to set up your day and how you fit, like either reading around that time or reading in the morning. You know, maybe you want to choose reading the Bible in the night, read the book in the morning, or read the book in the night, or read the book, or do both. 1 page of the Bible, 1 page of the book before you go to bed, because you want to kind of dissociate from your phone a bit before you get to bed, so you can start reading. And that's a good way to kind of tune out. You can feed your brain a little bit, and you've just read your 1 page. And then that's what you're aiming for. If you get better interested, cool. And then just aim to go to bed at the same time every day, and drink as much water as you can possibly drink. Spread it out, not as much as you can possibly drink because you'll be peeing a lot, but drink a lot of water consistently over the day. Because staying hydrated, staying motivated, and then just exercise a bit more, like, you know, and then all the other things about, like, you know, defining what your relationship with God is, you know, for me, is one of those ones, is one step at a time. You know, there's a simultaneous thing, because I think people kind of negate that word relationship. You know, this is like when you know, that's the reason why I asked you, do you trust in yourself? Because when it comes to relationship, everybody brings something to the table. You don't just wait for, people are just waiting for God to carry the whole relationship, and he's just looking at you like, you're not gonna even open the door for me, like, what go on, like, how's it gonna go? So everybody needs to understand that when it comes to relationship with God, in terms of getting there, you have something to bring to the table, and you have abilities, and it's okay for you to trust in your abilities. Maybe not want to completely rely on yourself, not just in terms of devoid of God, but just devoid of anybody else. You know, don't be hyper independent, but understand independence is very important. But be able to trust in your abilities, that I can do this. It's not that bad. But then you can also, you know, trust in God in that same thing, because he helps those who help themselves. So, you know, most people, when he said, you know, if you look at the Bible, when he told Moses, go and free my people, Moses was like, yo, welcome, my G. Like, you told me to go free your face. Like, go, how am I gonna do it? Like, you're my bro, I just told you to go. Like, and people are there stuck, just like, I mean, should I go left? Should I go right? Left foot, right foot? Because, like, I told you to go. You're asking too many questions. He trusts in you to carry out what he told you to do. That's the reason why when your dream or purpose comes to you, it comes to you. It doesn't come to anybody else. So in trusting your own abilities and trusting God is almost a roundabout thing, because if you trust in God, you trust in that he trusts in you, and it's a thing. So you got to bring something to the thing. And when it gets hard for you, then he comes in. It's like, yo, my G, this is where I can add value into your life, because he already gave you what you can do to keep on moving. And if you look at your life and the madness has happened, you're still alive, you got through it, and you're like, raw, he got you throughout that time, but you also helped in getting yourself there. So don't negate it in that sense. But take the little steps in order to get to that point. Take little steps to get there, you know. And in the process of all of that kind of stuff, in terms of the self-love aspect of this relationship, obviously, and you know, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but obviously first, one of the things you want to do is forgive yourself. Because most times when people say that their relationship, they want to, not saying that this is you, but I'm just speaking very generalistic. When people say they want to get their relationship with God better, that typically comes from a place of shame, guilt, feeling like they're disappointed or feeling like they're not doing well or something like that, which is not necessarily the best place to be coming from when you're trying to do that. And it's kind of like where a lot of people stay is like, okay, I did this, I feel like I've gone this, blah, blah, blah. Forgive yourself, just it's okay, you've done it. It's like, why are we stressing? Just keep it moving. But yeah, with all these things, just try and make them little by little. So in terms of relationship with God, taking the step, whether it's reading the Bible, whether that's praying more, keep it at the bare minimum. Don't go tomorrow and start doing Daniel fast and start doing 30-day fast and prayer. Like, don't, you're doing too much, but remember, even in the relationship with God, always exert balance. Don't go and start moving mad anyhow, because now you're in a relationship with God and you start doing crazy things. And so forgive yourself, forgive anybody who's hurt you. That's an important thing in terms of repairing a relationship with God. Loving yourself, and then I guess the next part is about you trying to find out what your purpose is if you haven't found it. And so when I always say to people, when you find your purpose, then you can live on purpose. So that's the whole thing. And then when you live on purpose, it's kind of like a bit easier to not feel lost, which is most times when we kind of lose that relationship, because it's like we're kind of lost. You're not finding me, so deuces for the minute. When I find myself, I'll find you too. So it kind of gets like that. So yeah, read one page, set up your night before, and then kind of go through that, and then make your budget. Start with the basics, and then start incorporating that, and then start bringing a little bit more structure into your life, but then bring structure that makes sense. Don't bring structure for the sake of structure. If you know that, and if you know that if you know that it's going to take you 2 hours to get ready, don't either wake up earlier or push the time of what you're going to do later. Don't set yourself up for failure. If you know that it will take you, if you know that, yeah, don't set yourself up for failure. Similar, like, don't go and say, I'm going to read 50 pages every day. Don't set yourself up for failure, especially if you have like 5 days or 3 days. It feels cool, but I've been busy. I know there's days that's not happening. I know if I say 1 page a day, the commute, I can do 1 page. That's 1 page, but you end up being what you do consistently. That's literally success. Success is little effort over time, consistency over time. If it's not working today, it's not working tomorrow. If you continue doing it, that's when you do it. If you've gone gym, you know that gym results come in time. For those who end up trying to get frustrated doing shortcuts, whether that's waist trainer or suck lipo, or go to Turkey or Dubai or any of those kind of things, it comes back to flop them afterwards anyway. So yeah. But
Sorry, I'm right in what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've said a lot. So I'm gonna, if you have any questions, then I'll answer. Because I think I've gone through pretty much almost all the things that you have said, unless there's any other questions that you have.
No, all good.
Cool. I guess okay. There's only one thing I didn't say. Do you have a lot of debt? Because you said debt journey. That's the only thing I didn't mention.
Debt?
Yeah. Do you have a lot of debt?
No, I don't owe anything now.
Okay. Good. Okay. Cool. So I'm gonna also say these two things. So one, budgeting app you need to download. I'm not sponsored. I wish they would sponsor me, but out of all the apps I've seen out here, they are good. This is Emma.
What's it called? Sorry.
Emma. It's called Emma. Yeah.
1 second.
So
EMMA.
EMMA. So if I go to, let me see. If
Is that what you use?
Yeah, it's one of the things I use, but it's not the main thing I use. If you go to this video that I did recently, you'll see in the what's it called? In the English you got in the description box. In the description
Yeah.
box. Yes, all the way down after, then you see it. And the second thing, in fact, I'll give it to you as if you drop me an email, I'll give it to you as somewhat as a gift, is a money management tool that I created, which
Okay.
what's it called? Money management tool which I created. Let me just give you a quick overview of that. Which is what's it called? Let me see, where's developer mode? There we go. Okay. Let me share. Okay, let me show you this. So, can you see this?
2 seconds. Yes, I can.
Cool. So this is the money management tool that I created. I think we started selling it like £1 or £2 or something like that. But to be honest, I forgot to set up the link anyway, so it's not even up there right now. But we were giving it out for free last year when I created it. But basically, this is a money management tool that I created for people to use. Obviously here you get to what's it called? Calculate how much you make per year. Obviously, if you're UK or a thing. So this really goes as long as you're doing PAYE. As long as you're doing PAYE, so even if it's 100,000, you know how much you're getting paid. This one is if you're getting any allowances, which is not in your base of money. The difference is that if you have an allowance or any kind of bonus like that, it doesn't get your pension. It doesn't go to your pension, so it's not pensionable money, but it's taxable. So if you're getting like a work allowance of 3,000 per year for travel or whatever, then you put your pension. Then if you're getting a bonus month, you can put how much that is. You know how much roughly how much you get paid based on PAYE. And then any like contributions to work, they'll subtract. So then this is if you're making variable money per month. Let's say you're working at making 400 a week, 1,600, and then you can kind of know what you're making per month. You probably wouldn't have a pension, and so you kind of know how much you're making per month. And so then this automatically tells you, okay, how much you should pay yourself first, minimum, the 10%. This tells you a couple of different budgeting techniques: 50, 30, 20, 50, 30, 20, 10. And then this goes into the 5 of them in terms of how you should, potentially a guide of how you should be allocating it. That's if, and this changes obviously if you have more debts or whatever. So, and then that kind of gives you a guide. Then if you're using student loan, and then you can change this. Obviously, this is UK. Obviously, I'm not sure. I know you're an island, but I'm not sure how it goes there. But obviously, you've got student loan, blah, blah, blah. You can factor that in. If you don't have student loan, which would probably apply to you. Sorry, that would be number 3. Oh, which one is it? But the main part for this anyway, it's not this. So you got student loan. This is the budgeting site. So this is where you can kind of like put all your money. So this is where you kind of put your money and say, okay, this is how I want to allocate my money. So if this money, when you put it here, the tax take home, in the budget section, it takes that money straight here and pulls it here. Let's say you have a custom one now, you got £2,000 per month, then this is your budgeting thing. Then you can now change this and allocate how much you want to put to investing or whatever. Now let's say rent 600. You can see for needs, I say food, all of this kind of things. For wants and enjoyment, let me say I want to enjoy £400 per month. Then I want to save, let me say, obviously always pay yourself first is 200. Let me say I want to overflow in, let's say another 400. Then I automatically know that, don't mind those two, but for the yellows, I know I still have 400 left, and this still works. And then I'm actually doing better based on how much I'm allocating. Now, if I say I want to be allocating 35, then you know that you're not doing great on that. But if you're allocating 50, 30 to 35, then you know that that can't work here. So you have to, your budget has to be obviously add up to 100 for it to work. Then if you do this, this automatically tells you, okay, this is how much you have left after whatever. If you have any debts, let's say £20 here, let's say you're investing £100 a month, you automatically have, you know, 280 left, and then you can do whatever. So this automatically pulls your needs and wants and says, okay, you're spending £1,000 a month. This is how much you need for 1 month emergency fund. This is for 3,000, this is 6,000. Then this is, if you were doing £200 a month, this is how much you need to save. This is how many months it'll take you, sorry, 5 months, 15 months, 30 months. If you have a custom one, let's say you're going to go hard and you say, okay, £500 a month, you can do that in 2 months. Down here, you have a custom emergency fund calculator. So some people don't want to do that whole thing. They want to just say, I want £10,000 in my account, and then that's what will make me feel secure. And there was, let's say they started at the beginning of this year, because, you know, people be doing people, and they say they want to do it by the end of let's say 2023, let's say 2023. Then they know this is how much they need to save every month minimum for them to do it at that point in time, 35 months. And you know, because some people, they'll say, I want to do it by that. Some people tell me they want to get 10K by the end of next year. So, or in a year's time, let me say. And then this is when people will now be like, okay, 12 months, 833, can I put that away? If they know they can't put it away, then they have to change their tactics. They just need to know that that plan won't work. Then here's saving goals calculator. So this is for your sinking funds. So let's say house, car, holiday, date, you know, ring if you're proposing. And then you put it similar like this. You put how much it is, when you want to do it, and how much per month. And then let's say, you know, this one might be 01, 02, 20, 30. Oh, sorry. 2022, I'll start next year, and then I want to do it by July 2030. And let me say, I know I need like 20K saved, but I'm in no rush. I'm living at home. Then I know that 198, I want to buy a car. You know, maybe that one, I want to do it by the end of next year, Christmas present. You know, 2022, you know, this one, obviously, always do. But I want to start Black Friday. Let's do, you know, and then you kind of know, okay, this is how much I need to start saving each month. Then spending track, this is where, what's it called? A lot of the main aspect of it. So this is where you plan how much you spend. This is where you track how much you spend. Now, the reason why I use both Emma and this one that I created, so I use this as well, this is mainly what I use, is that when you, like, similar to like when I said, when you write it down, your brain remembers it. When you're typing this out, it's kind of like the second best, because you're actually physically tracking and what's it called, putting your money in a certain place. So you can set your monthly savings goals, and it will tell you if you met your target or you didn't meet your target. It tells you, you know, how much your accounts for everywhere, your investing accounts, whatnot. And then you really put into it how much you're spending, and it lets you know. And then it'll give you a ratio of your savings, how much the surplus or current account or main current account balance is the same thing. And then you can basically see how much you've brought in. If somebody sent you money, you put it down here. Investing, you put it there. If it's debt, you put it there, if you're using a credit card anyway. And then this all pulls into a savings account summary, where you can kind of see how much you save per month, watch it grow, and you can kind of get a summary of how it went up. Now, if I show you, let me see, let me show you, what's this year? You go Tickzon. Let me show you, this one needs to open. Let me show you this is last year, right? Yeah, let me show you. So and then you can kind of at the end of the year kind of see how your saving habit. So my saving habit increased over, and then you can get the total. Then you can kind of see how you allocate your money, wants, needs, savings towards debt, and all of that kind of went up. Needs went down, it went up when I moved out, savings, sorry, went down when I moved out, etc. And then you can kind of also see it over here on this end, and you can see how it went. So consistent, then pandemic, then came out of pandemic, worked, moved out, then got it back into control. And then you can see where majority of it was going. Majority is going savings, whatnot. And so this is what I use in the newest versions. When I'm going to do, they'll be having like debt calculators and stuff like that. This obviously has some resources, the FAQ, and then you have the saving summary specific, and then you have the summary in general. So I use that in conjunction with oh yeah, let me save your email now. So yeah, I use that in conjunction with Emma, but Emma is really good. It's really good. Like every week, and so it will give you a what's it called? Like an update of how you spent over that week. Tell you where you spent the most. Is telling me how much I spent on TFL. It's like, yo, bro, chill. Don't be getting in my business like that. But yeah, it's really good, and it will you know, it'll tell you areas where you can do better and all that kind of stuff, and it'll tell you like week on week where you spent the most, and then you can kind of know where you can cut out. And then obviously it's also good because as opposed to like my sheet, which is you still doing manual, is that one links to your account. So if you ever forget something that you didn't put in there, then it will what's it called, it'll pick it up if you link all your accounts. Obviously I always use that because, you know, if I'm being honest, I'm not going back 5 years into that account, you know, but at least that I can just see it straight off and like, no, it'll give me a breakdown. This is how much I spent on this, and then I'm able to categorize where my needs, wants, debts were, and work accordingly.
Okay. Is Emma available on the App Store?
Yes.
I can't find it.
Really? It should be.
Yeah.
You're in Ireland, right?
Yes, sir.
I assume it should be available there. Emma Money Manager.
Nope.
Emma, no, it's not. I can't show you on that. Emma Money Manager and Budget Tracker. Let me see. Is Emma in Ireland?
I don't think so.
Because they might have a something in there. Emma Money Manager. Let me see. Should be allowed in Ireland. It should be an app store. What's it called? This app is available on your device. Are you Apple or Android?
Apple.
Apple. Let me see. Emma Money Manager, Apple Store. Let me see. So I haven't. Okay, I'm gonna. So if it doesn't come up, then you know it's not available in your country. So then maybe I'll check.
Yeah.
Later on. I just sent you a link, so if you click it, if it doesn't come up, then it's probably not available in your country. Then I'll maybe check if I know one that.
I clicked the link.
Then maybe I'll check if there's one that I might know. If not, then Money Dashboard is a good one.
All right. Okay.
If not, Money Dashboard is a decent one, but not as good as Emma. But Money Dashboard is good.
All right.
Yeah, I don't like Yolt or any of those other ones. They're just not great.
Thank you so much.
No problem, madam.
I'm done with that.
So good. Oh, at that juncture, if you haven't, do you have any more questions? If not, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening.
No, sir. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending the extra time.
There's no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take care, madam.
God bless.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
And that has been Tickzon Management Scheme. We take the extra time to make sure you shine. My name has been Ugo. Your name has been blessed. Hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And hopefully this has helped you out just by share. Wow, we've been here for a minute, but hey, wow, even my camera started dipping in quality. I'm in darkness. I should go and eat. I haven't eaten since morning. My lips are dry.